Hey there! Today, we have an exciting topic to explore, arrow functions and context binding in JavaScript. These concepts are fundamental to understand modern JavaScript coding practices. So, let's dive in. Let's start with arrow functions. They provide a concise and elegant way to write functions in JavaScript. Take a look at this example. In this example, we defined an arrow function called sum that takes two parameters, a and b, and returns their sum. Arrow functions make our code more readable and help us write functions quickly. Pretty neat, right? Now, let's move on to context binding with arrow functions. Context binding refers to how the this keyword is handled within a function. Unlike regular functions, arrow functions do not bind their own this value but instead inherit it from the surrounding code. This behavior can be quite useful in certain situations. Consider this example. We have an object called person with a greet method. Inside the greet method, we use a setTimeout function to log a greeting message after 1 second. Notice how we use an arrow function as the callback function for setTimeout. By doing so, the arrow function inherits this value from its surrounding code, which is the person object. This allows us to access the name property of the person object within the arrow function. Arrow functions and context binding offer several benefits. They improve code readability and allow functions to access the right data easily. Here are some best practices to keep in mind. Use arrow functions for concise one-liner functions. Be mindful of the context when using regular functions, as they have their own binding. Leverage context binding to access object properties and methods within functions. To recap, arrow functions provide a streamlined way to write functions, while context binding ensures functions can access relevant data. By mastering these concepts, you will become a more efficient JavaScript coder. We've covered the basics of arrow functions and context binding today. But remember that there's more to explore, such as lexical scope and closures. So stay tuned for future videos. Thanks for watching and happy coding!